All right, so now let's continue building our sidebar. Now remember that inside of this our layout, there are actually just two main components. The first is this div. So if you look at this div here, it ends here, yeah, and then the second is this main tag that contains like the main component in the dashboard. That's aside the sidebar. So what we're going to do is, before the close this last div here, right? So this, we're talking about this, div within the layout. Before, at the end here, we're just going to come here, and then we're going to output the sidebar items. You see the sidebar items that we created here? Great, we're going to output it. So what I'll do is I'll open my curly braces and I'll map through the menu items. Remember, we have these menu items that we imported from the data and then the sidebar.js. So I'll come here and then I'll just say menu dot map. So I'll map through it like this, and then I'll represent every item inside the array as an item, and then I also use the index. So let me get out the index. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up like this, and inside we're going to now return the sidebar item. Aha, let's close this. Now this sidebar item, we're going to send some props to it. So the first is, let's define the key. I'll say key and I'll set it to index. Anytime you map through a list in React, you need to set the key. That's why we brought out the index here. All right, so I'm also going to send it an item, and that's going to be equal to item. Sorry, this needs to be curly braces, item, which is coming from here. Okay, I'll give a space, and then I'll send it the is open variable, is open state. So remember, we had a state here that monitors when this sidebar is expanded or collapsed, and we named it is open. So I'm also going to get that is open and send it to the sidebar item. So I'll come here, is open, and that's going to be equal to is open. Great. So what that means is that by the time when I start building out this sidebar item, at least I'm going to have some props here. So the first one will be the item and is open. Okay, so you get what's going on here. All right, so but let's come back to the sidebar.js because we're not done here. So now that we've done this, let's complete this section here. So in this our main tag, which is this guy, the main tag is this guy that is behind this sidebar. We'll just adjust the width depending on whether this guy is open or not. So I'll come here and I'll add my style. So style, and that's going to be, let's have parentheses. So what I'll say is, I'll say that I'll add some padding on the left. So I'll say padding left. Good. And then I'll say that if is open is equal to true, then I'll make the padding on the left to be 230px, and that is synchronous to what we have here, 230 and then 60. So you see, so let's come back. So if it's open is equal to true, then 230 pixels padding on the left, else I'll just have my 60px. Then I will now add another property. I'll set the transition so that it occurs smoothly. So transition, and I'll set that to be all, and I'll just say 0.5 seconds. Great. So now let's go ahead and save. So what will happen now is that it will adjust the width of the main container. So you see it has pushed it out, and also we now have this sidebar. Okay, so you see the sidebar item is now displaying because we have 4 menu items. If you go to the finished products here, you see that we have 4 menu items, and then this third one has a sub menu. Great. So at this point now we can go ahead and start writing the code or building out the sub menu items for this project. So I'll go to the sidebar items, Aha, so this is where we are now. And okay, we still have some time, so I think we can just build it in one swipe. So there are some things we're going to need in this one. We're going to need an icon, and let me show you the icon. So you see this arrow icon, we're going to need it. So I'll just grab it, and then I'll just slot it in here. So I'll just slot that in there. Okay, great. So now for the return statement, this return statement here, I'm not just going to return this guy. I'm going to use an if statement to separate various conditions. The first is, there are some menu items that they are just single, like this dashboard now is just a single menu item, while there are some menu items that have children, like this account, it has two children, the edit profile and the profile. So basically, I'm going to be displaying different JSX depending on whether they have children or whether they don't have children, whether they are single. So here inside my component, I'm going to have an if statement. So I'll say if, and what I'm looking for, if first off, if the menu item has children. So I'll say if item dot children, I made it plural, children's. That's not it's not a correct English, but that's what we used. So I'll say if the item has children, then I'll return this. Then let's have an else block, else I'll return something else. So let me just duplicate this return statement, and then I'll just drag it down. Okay, so now let's have the markup for when the menu item has sub menu, that's this children here. So I'll just wrap all of this around my parenthesis like so, and then I'll just bring it down. So first off, we're going to have a div, and this div is going to have a class name. This class name is going to be dynamic. Okay, so the first thing is, why am I getting I don't know why I'm getting the red mark for the class name, but anyway, let's just continue. So the first thing is I'll create a variable for that will monitor when this, we are working with the one that has children. When you click on this guy, it's assumed that the sub menu has been expanded. Okay, so I'll create a variable to monitor that, a state to monitor that. I'll call that state expand menu. So let's come up here and just create the state. So I'll say use state, all right, and I'll call it expand menu. Aha, so let's make this set expand menu, and then here we're just going to set it initially, it's not going to be expanded, so I'll set it to false initially. Sorry, that should be small letter, so false. Aha, great. Then of course we need to import use state from React, so let me just do that automatically. Okay, fine, we're on the right track. And I don't know why this thing is still showing a red line. Let me just, anyway, let's just continue, we'll figure it out. So here for the class name, I will say that it's going to be dynamic, like I said. So here I will say the class name if expand menu is equal to true, then I want it to have a class name of, so let's open our string. So first off, I'll say sidebar item, sidebar hyphen item, that's one. Then I also want it to have another class of sidebar parent, so I'll just shorten it and say s hyphen parent, because if we're expanding this menu here like this, I'm assuming that this is the parent, this account is the parent, and these ones are the children. So sidebar parents. Then another thing is open. All right, so now let's come and have the else block. So else, I just wanted to have these two without the open class, so I'll just grab this sidebar menu and sidebar parent, and then I'll slot it here. So this sidebar menu styling and everything, you need to be actually very careful so that you don't make a mistake. All right, so let's open that up like this. Aha, then I'll just get rid of this sidebar. All right, so now inside of that we're going to have another div, because this sidebar, let me close it. It's assumed that this is just a title. It's not like a real menu. Like if you click on this, it's not going anywhere. It's only when you click on the children that you now go somewhere. So I'm assuming that this is like the title of the menu. So I'll have a div here that will have a class name of sidebar title, and then I'll just tap that, and then let's open it up. So we open it up, and then let's start by having a span. That span will hold this icon and all of this you see here. So I'll say span, I'll tap that, and then let's have our, what's it called, I'll have a parenthesis, and then I'll first say that if the item, which is the menu item, has an icon, so item dot icon, then I'll display the icon, because there are situations where you may not want the menu to have an icon. So but if it does have an icon, then let's display the icon. So I'll just have a div with a class of icon. I'll tap that, tap that. Oh, I think I did that twice. Okay, yeah, so icon, and then here I'll just display the icon like this. I'll say item dot icon, and this item dot icon is coming from that our sidebar.js file, the one we closed. So I think at this point I should just open it up. So let me go to my data, which is right here, and then sidebar, close this up. So if you look here, you see that we have this icon. So this is what we are pointing to at the moment. Of course, we have a title and a path. We're going to come to that later. So I'll come back here. Yeah, then I'll come here and have another curly braces. In this curly braces, I'll say that if the is open is equal to true. Remember, we sent this is open as a prop. We received it as a prop from the parent component. So here I'm saying that if is open is equal to true, then I want to display the title. So what this means is that in this finished project, see, is open is equal to false. Now you see we're not seeing the title, but when you click on it, then is open becomes true. Then you can see all the title of the menu, so dashboard, add product, account, and all of that. So here let's just have a div, and the div is just going to have the item.title. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do for this sidebar title div is to add this arrow here. So I'll come outside of the span, but still within the sidebar title div, and then I'll just have my icon. So the icon is this one we imported, this very one. So I'll just copy that, and then I'll just have that here like so. Let's close that up, and this one is going to have a size of, I'm sure you're guessing, well, you guessed wrong. It's going to have a size of 25. We've been using 35 before, but this one will be 25. Then we're going to give it a class name. The class name is going to be the arrow icon. So arrow hyphen icon. Then lastly, when you click on this icon, we want to do something. So I'll just do it right away. I'll say on click. Aha, so when you click on it, what do we want to do? Well, we want to expand the sub menu so that we can see. We want to expand this menu so that we can see the sub menu. That's what we want to do when you click on it. So here I'll just come here and use my arrow function syntax like this and say set expand menu. Remember, we created a state called expand menu, so I'll say set expand menu to the opposite of what it is. So not expand menu, it's just a toggle function essentially. All right, so that's about it for that one. The next thing we'll now have is the content. So now we've written the markup and everything, the styling for the title. So the next thing we'll now have is the sidebar content. So this is where the title ends. So you see sidebar title. So I'll just come below that and I'll create a div with a class of sidebar content, and then I'm just going to tap that and open it up. So what's the content we have inside? Well, we have the menu item, this menu item you see here, and it's like a link because when you click on it, it goes to that menu item. So it's technically it's a link. So here I'm going to, and it can be more than one. Oh, so you see here we have two. So here we're going to have our curly braces, and we're going to map through the item dot children's. Okay, and then we'll map through that. So dot map. So let's open that up, and then we're just going to represent every item inside it as a child, and then we'll have the index, access to the index as well. So now let's open it up like this. I know this code is getting really but I mean that's that's how the sidebar thing works. So now inside here we're gonna return something. So return, and I'll just open my parenthesis. Okay, great. So here let's create a div, and so I'll say dot. Remember in the upper what's it called, in the parent we gave it a class of sidebar hyphen parent. This one is going to be sidebar hyphen child, and then I'll just tap that, open it up as well. It's also going to have a key so that it doesn't throw an error. So key, and that's going to be set to the index. Okay, so let's come inside of the div itself, which is here. Great. So what do we have inside the div? Well, we have a link, and this link, we're not just going to use the regular link, we're going to use the nav link that comes with React Router 6. It's also in 5 though, so just nav link. So let's come here and say nav link like so, and then I'll just close it. Now I will try to auto import it. Let's see if it's so it can auto import from React Router DOM. So we have that. It's going to have a to property, so I'll say to. So where is it going to? Where is it linking to? So it's going to link to the child and the path. So if you come to this guy, you see here we have this path. Great. So I'll come here, and then I'll say I want to link to child dot path. So that's the first one. Then we're going to have a class name, and this one I'm going to set it to, instead of me to write out the class name, because I want to have an active class name. So if I click on this profile, for example, you'll see that we have this what's it called, active styles on it. So what's this color? I don't know what this color is. Blue, light blue. So that's an active class name. Now we're able to detect that the page is currently on the profile page, and that's why we're able to attach this active class to it. So what I'll do is I'll create like a variable on the top of my page here, and then I'll just write all the logic to detect that I'm currently on this page, so give it an active class. So for this class name, I would say I want it to have a active, I want to point it to active sublink. Okay, I will now copy this sublink, and then I'll just go to the top of my page. Even outside the component is fine. So this is the component. I'll just go outside the component, and I'll just create a variable. I'll say const, and then I'll just have the active sublink here. And that's going to, because it has some logic, it's not just straightforward, so it has some logic. So this nav link, it gives us one property, and the name of that property is active. So I'll open an object and destructure that property. Is active like this. This is active property will help us to know whether we are currently on that link, that page link we clicked. So this is dot profile, yeah, localhost / profile. It will check, are we on this profile page? If we're on this profile page, it will return true. So I'll destructure it from here like this. That's the first thing. Then I will now say use an arrow function like so, and then I'll open another parenthesis. So here I'll say if is active is equal to true, and I go very detailed in setting an active class like this in my React course. So I'll say if is active is equal to true, then I want the class name to be active, else I want the class name to be just link. Okay, so you see what we just did here. This is for the active sublink. But also we're going to use the same thing for another class that we'll call active link. But when we come there, we'll do it. Or maybe I should just do it now so that we don't have to come up here again. So I'll just duplicate this and I'll just name the first one active link. So active link, like so. And of course, if it's active, then I want it to have a class name of active and then link. Then for the active sublink, I want it to have a class name of active and then link. So that's, it's just the same thing but different names. Okay, great. So now let's come back down to the where we were, and that is the nav link. Yeah, so this is the nav link. So having created the nav link, I will just come below the nav link. That is here. I'm trying to figure out where the nav link ends. Okay, so it ends here. Yeah, that's correct. So I'll just come below that, and oh, I think there's something I need to do. This nav link, it needs to have both an opening and a closing tag. So that's something I missed. So I'll just get rid of this one and then I'll just have a closing tag of nav link, like so, / and then the closing tag. Yeah, so that's what I needed to do. So inside of the nav link, I will now define what I want to be inside the nav link. So you see here, we just have a text here, profile, which is the title. But if we create an icon for this sublink, it's also going to be displayed here. So we're going to factor in that while we write the content of the nav link. So first off, I'll just have a let's see, I would have a div inside of this guy. So div, and so let's just give this div a class name of I'll call it sidebar item, sidebar hyphen item. Aha. Then I would put another div inside here. If I had a chance to refactor this code, I'll refactor a lot of things out. But anyway, let's just continue. So here I'll say dots, and this one I'll call my sidebar title, sidebar hyphen title. Tap that, and I think at this point I need to expand my code editor. So we have the sidebar item, inside which we have the sidebar title. Then here I will then go ahead and have the icon and the title of the link. So here I'll say if there is any child dot icon, then I want to display the icon. So the icon is just going to be inside the div, and that div is going to have a class name of icon. So tap that. Aha, so here we're just going to point to the icon, and that's going to be child dot icon. Okay, then next I think we can just duplicate this one, and this will just represent the title. So if there is so you know what, let me just get rid of everything inside the curly braces or below. So here I'll say if is open. Remember that our is open variable. So if is open, that's when I want to display the title. Okay, so we'll just have a div, tap that, and then we're just going to say child dot title, child dot title. Okay, yeah, so that's about it for displaying the sidebar that has children in it. So but the question is, what if the sidebar does not have children in it? What are we going to do? So that brings us to the else part. Yeah, so you see this else block here, but at this point I think maybe I'll just save it first and then see the output, just to make sure that at least I'm not writing rubbish. Okay, great. So you see we have the account, and if we click on it, you see we have the profile. One thing though, it's not, the padding is missing, so but we're going to come back to that. So let me just write for when there is no child inside of the menu item, and that is going to be a little bit more straightforward, because what I'll just do is I'll just copy this nav link here. So you see this nav link that we spent so much time writing, I'll just copy it. So just grab the nav link like so. I'll copy that, and then I'll just come here. Inside this my return statement, instead of returning a div, I'll just return that nav link. So here I'll delete everything you see here, open my parentheses, and then I'll return the nav link. Now we're just going to go ahead and make some modification, because currently I'm getting this red marks here. So the small modification we'll make is that because we're not dealing with a child, we are dealing with the item. So if you come here, you see here that we imported item. So we're just going to replace all this child here with item. So let's start here, and here as well, and here as well, and here as well, and then I'll just replace it once and for all with item, and suddenly all of that red mark will be gone. Then another thing we need to do is, let me expand this guy so that we can see properly. Another thing we need to do here is, you see this place where we say we created a div with a class of sidebar item. Well, that's not what we want to do. In fact, let's even start from the top, this nav link here. Yes, we are going to item.path, but the class name is not going to be active sublink, it's going to be active link. So here I'll just say active link nk. So that's first. Then this one that says sidebar item, it's not going to be sidebar. Oh wait, something is wrong. Oh, okay, I see what was wrong earlier. You know there's no hyphen here, so there needs to be hyphen. So let me add the hyphen at the top here. Yeah, so sidebar hyphen item, that was what was making it not have the padding. So we're going to have sidebar item, but we're also going to specify that it's a parent. So here I'll give a space and say sidebar hyphen parent. Then sidebar title, that's going to stay. Then we've already changed the icon. The only thing is we'll wrap this, everything you see here, inside of a span. So let me just come here and just add a span. I'll tap that, and then I'll just bring the closing tag here, and if item.icon, then I'll display the icon, which is okay. Then if it's open, then I will display the item.title, which is also okay. So now I can go ahead and save, and let's check our code editor to see if we have some changes. Aha, so you see we now have some changes here, and because we are in the dashboard, then then you see the active class is here. But there's something though, in this sub menu we are not seeing the icon, so we need to just check what we did. But if you open it up, you see that we have the sub menu displaying, but we're not seeing the icon. So I need to go back here and just check why the icon is not displaying. So the first return statement here, so we did children.map, and we said if there's a child.icon, then we want to display the icon. So technically it should display, except there is no icon. Okay, so I think maybe this icon is not displaying because we needed to wrap this in a span tag, just like we did for the one at the bottom. So if you wrap it in a span tag and you save, if you come here, you should be able to see the icon. Let it compile. Okay, so I still cannot see my icon, so let me still. Okay, so I think I figured out what the problem is. We have a typographical error somewhere. So this is for the children. So you see we have child.icon. So but if you scroll up, you will see the one for the parent. So here we have item.icom instead of icon. So that's where we had a typographical error. And then if you just go ahead and save that, then if we refresh the page, you should see that we'll now have the icon, except that it's quite small. And that is because we just have a class name of icons instead of just an icon singular. So by the time you save that, everything will just fall into place. Yeah, so you see we now have everything regular. So if you open this guy up, you see we have the profiles, and everything is just perfect right now. So but if you're having any issues with this, then just go to the GitHub repo and just copy everything. This code, I'm going to make a branch for it, sidebar JSX or something like that, and so you can just go to the repo and just look for it and copy it, and then we can continue. So that's about it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.